Welcome to From the Stands, your one-stop shop podcast for insider access and in-depth interviews with your favorite Billiken coaches and players. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Billiken Podcast for the latest news on future episodes. Now, here is your host, Billiken Athletic Director, Chris May.
Welcome back from the stands, Billiken Fans, where we talk Billiken athletics here on our podcast. It is basketball season, and we are fired up about it. Kicking off on Monday with our men's basketball team. We've got Josh Schertz, our men's basketball coach here in year one, as all of you know. But I'll refresh a little bit. Josh came to us in April from Indiana State. He's been a head coach for 16 seasons. He's got a .787 winning percentage. It's been really fun to get to watch Josh put together a staff, a team, and crank it up in a very short period of time. So welcome back, Josh. As we wind down preseason practice, the mindset of a coach. What's the mindset of a coach going in to game one? Obviously, we've bit off quite a bit in stepping up against Santa Clara on the road. But the mindset of a coach coming from a long off season from June training, May, June until now, there's been a lot of playing against ourselves, right? Against our own team. Now, as we take it against someone else, what's the mindset of you as a head coach as you're getting this team ready to go?
Yeah, I think, when you get in that preseason mode, obviously you get here, your whole mindset is putting together a staff and cobbling, getting a team together that really fits. It wasn't, the puzzle pieces have to fit, but then certainly the character piece had to fit, the cultural piece had to be in place. And I think we did a really good job in terms of making sure we got the right kind of guys. I think we have some good puzzle pieces that'll blend well together and compound each other. As you get into the summer with a brand new group like this, you're trying to do two things. You're trying to establish an identity for how you want to play offensively, an identity for how you want to play defensively. I think those are keys. And then trying to develop habits, and habits that can hold up over the course of a long season, and habits that can hold up in the highest level of games, those against the best teams in the country, right? So you're trying to develop that level of habit. And that, as we got into the fall is kind of where we've been, what's our identity? We laid a foundation this summer, but then the fall where you have more time is what's our identity going to be? How do we want to play offensively, defensively? And then what kind of habits do we need to have to really become a good basketball team? And, now as we get into the season, I think, the focus for me has always been the same. I think, in internal standards are what we talk about all the time. North Star being to compete together and defining for our guys what that looks like, what that sounds like, what that is. I think the focus on really good teams and what we've talked about, at Lincoln Memorial, Indiana State, and here is we got to really lock into learning and growing through every experience, good or bad, and we got to focus on getting better every single day. Like that's our pathway as a team, as a program, to trying to compete together and play to a standard every single game, and then also to be at our best when it matters most at the end, when the end of the season's here and you want to be playing your best basketball. So there's going to be every season there's a lot of hopefully progression. There's going to be some plateaus, and unfortunately there's usually regression. Sky falls a couple times a year for every team. How you navigate those things, how you stay connected to your internal standards is your key to navigating that as we build. And I think that's the challenge now as we get locked in here is we're going to have an outside competition on Monday against a great team. It's going to be high level competition, a great opportunity for us to see where we are against what I think is an NCAA tournament caliber team in a neutral site. And result will be what it'll be. And then we got to again, how do we learn? How do we grow from that, win or lose? And then how do we prepare and get ready and improve daily to get ready for our next competition?
So learning, as we were with one of our top donors yesterday for breakfast, and you talked about the need to stress a team through that learning process. How do you get a team ready to stress them at the higher and higher level right out of the chute? It'd be way easier to not be playing a team this good. Yeah. But knowing that the stress is coming, how do you prepare a team that's not played as one before? They've not played together before against live competition. How do you get a team ready to do that, knowing that the heat is coming?
Yeah, I know it's a great question. I think, when we talked about this November schedule, and you're playing, Santa Clara, and you're playing Loyola Marymount, and you're going to play Wichita State neutral, and you're playing two teams in Quinnipiac, UMass Lowell will be picked to win their leagues, and you got these great games in November. The thought was that could really accelerate our developmental curve, right? That level of competition, that's how you sharpen your blade, is you really play against elite teams, and they show you where you are. Competition's a mirror. The higher the level of competition, the higher the line, the more disciplined you got to be, the better you got to be in terms of how you compete, your ability to execute, how hard you got to play, playing your identity, doing it consistently. With these guys, we're getting thrown in the fire, and we've talked about. We're going to try as best we can in practice to certainly simulate and stress them in the ways we think. Part of the deal with these first games is, we can watch Santa Clara last year, but that's not exactly Santa Clara. There's a lot of same players. Their point guard, who was first team all league, is not there. Went away. He's back now. But we know the challenge ahead. But I think you put them in practice. You try to simulate the game as much as you can, and you certainly talk about, and we've stressed since day one, the process. And we have I think when you talk about the stresses, part of being a great competitor is having great competitive humility, and understanding and respecting how hard it is to win, and how good we're going to have to be, and how good Santa Clara is, and the line we're going to have to hit to be successful, and that there is a stress to that. There is a pressure to go out and play your best. It's a lot easier to dip your toe in and play a couple games at home against maybe lower level competition and kind of get your feet wet and then build into it. But this opportunity is a great one for our program, and it's a great opportunity for us to get a real gauge as to where we are, and whatever the result is, we're going to learn more about our team Monday afternoon than we have this entire time frame. Like that competition, that November schedule, our November schedule, if we do it right, is really going to accelerate that developmental curve to where we'll get better faster, because the level of competition is really going to sharpen us. It's going to force us to practice, and you have no choice but to have a great sense of urgency about every practice, every day, and is going to drive that daily improvement. And then the competition in between the lines is going to show us and reflect back to us exactly where we are. Then we can use that information to get better, prepare, and drive it. And hopefully every competition, you can see the growth in where we are as a team.
What do we want our identity to be, number one? And two, along with that, how much does it help to have a real special talent in Robbie that has that competitive humility you were talking about? How do those two come together?
Yeah, I think, in terms of our identity, I think we want to be a team that's really hard to play against, right? Like, if you want to just look at it as a broad 10,000-foot view, we want to be really hard to play against for a team's offense, so our defense. And we want to be really hard to play against for a team's defense, so our offense. And what does that look like? We want to be disruptive defensively. We want to be a team that can take you out of plan A, make you get to other things, take you out of rhythm. Offensively, we want to play with five guys activated. I think goes back to competing together. We want to compete together on both ends of the floor. That's what the good teams do. They play together, compete together offensively, and certainly they play with unbelievable, competitiveness and physicality and connectedness defensively. And so, a big picture perspective, that's what I hope our identity is. That people go, man, they're really hard to play against on both ends of the floor.
Well, that's where I was going to go. Okay. Which makes it harder to play against? The defensive disruptiveness or the offensive, or is it both? They have to be connected, or you can't.
I think if you had to pick one, you would say the defense, because that holds itself true every game. That gives you consistency. I think the good teams are good at both. Basketball ties together. It's a misnomer, misperception that you can just go out and be good offensively and win at a high level. Like, if you go back to my time at LMU, I think we led the country in field goal defense 4 times, and maybe once we were obviously an efficient offense, but our defense was always a little bit ahead of our offense. Time in the Missouri Valley, first year we were bad at both, which is why we didn't have a good record. And then year 2, we were, I think, first or second in offense, but we were 4th in defense. And last year we were first in both. You have to excel in both to be good. Basketball ties together. It's hard to be a good offensive team if you're taking the ball in the net every single time. And it's hard to be a good defensive team if you're turning the ball over and taking bad shots, right? So like everything compromises the other. Basketball truly ties together in that there's transition. It's not football where, you have a break and you come in. You don't stop between each play. You don't get to come out and say, our defensive group comes out. Like, you have to be able to do both, and it ties together, similar to soccer, where there's a constant transition. And so your ability to toggle those things is what makes the really elite teams. And, and a guy like Robbie, you mentioned, his competitive humility. And, Robbie's a guy that's going to drive, he understands the culture. He understands and is bought into how we do things. He lives it. There's this balance we want in our program. And when I first became a head coach, I really, we talked about it from the beginning, a pillar of competition, a pillar of joy. Obviously, we're doing something we take incredibly seriously. It's a bottom line business. It's a production-based business, players and coaches. There's a score. It's easy to see if you won or lost. So you have to take the competition component seriously. I think, and I believed when I first started as a head coach, and I believe you don't have to have an environment that is drudgery every day to do that. You can enjoy and have fun and laugh and have an internal environment that people enjoy coming to work. They enjoy coming to practice. It doesn't mean that there's not accountability. It doesn't mean that there's not demands. I think that's, again, a misnomer. But I think you can do it in a way that people really can. And Robbie, I think, does a great job of this, where he takes what he does incredibly seriously, but doesn't take himself too seriously. And I think that's a great balance in life. And he has an ability to be self-deprecating, which shows a high level of humility. And that humility drives itself to competitive humility, because I don't think you can be a great competitor without a high level of competitive humility. You have to understand how hard it is to win, how small the margins are to win, and how good you got to be in between those 4 lines to get the job done. And Robbie, I think, has that. He has a great emotional capacity, a great emotional leadership, and that permeates itself through his team and his teammates.
You stole my next question, because I was going to ask you about, as the heat gets turned up, how do you keep joy? And we talk about gratitude around here a lot too. And I think both joy and gratitude, people mistake that for not being soft and tough and disciplined. Actually, they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
But those great teams, as you're just talking about, if you can have joy when you walk out there in the heat of the battle, you've got an extra step.
No question. I think, look, every season has its ups and downs. I've been fortunate to be a part of some teams that, won, 32 games in a row and 24 games in a row. I think I've been a part of 5 or 6 seasons where I had 20 games, winning streaks in a single season. And there was still adversity, and there's still hardships. Every season you walk into, there is going to be an array of unforeseen circumstances that occur. Some really good, where you're like, man, that guy came out of nowhere and he's a great player. Or we didn't ever think that would happen. And some bad. That's why I think as the heat turns up and as you get into it, if your culture is only your culture when you're winning, it's not a culture. We talk a lot about internal standards over external conversations and noise. There's going to be a lot of external conversations, a lot of external noise, good or bad. And that's a part of this. When you're playing and you're competing in competitive sports at a high level, there's a lot of scrutiny, a lot of judgment, a lot of people, a lot of criticism, a lot of praise. And that's all what it should be. That's all, above board. That's how it's supposed to be. You signed up for that. I signed up for that. Our players signed up for that. There is no question that every game and all that stuff is a referendum on everything we're doing. We talk a lot internally about competitors' mindset and observers' mindset. Observers can have a totally different mindset. Fans, media, everybody, you can overreact. You cannot have competitive humility. Every team you're playing can stink.
Your Major League Baseball team the other night.
The Yankees in the 5th inning, I was screaming at them as they committed multiple errors and we didn't cover first base, and and so that's fine. But the competitor's mindset, what are our internal standards? What are we about? Are we really focused on, as why we went in the beginning of this, focus on growth, focus on learning, focus on preparation, focus on getting better every single day. The rest of it is just noise, because here's the deal. If you're on a 10-game losing streak and everybody's losing their mind, the key to stopping it and flipping it is to focus on growth, learning, preparation, and getting better every single day. And if you've won 10 in a row and everybody's telling you you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, the key to keeping it going is to come in and focus on growth, learning, preparation, and getting better daily. That, when you can lock into those internal standards, hey, what does competing together look like? What does that mean to us? What is our focus on a daily basis? Like, what are we coming in to work to do? And then take the results, take that, hey, that's how you learn, that's how you grow. We need the competition to show us. We understand how high the level is. Having competitive humility means you're not scared. It's not a fear of competition. It's just an understanding of how good you got to be, how hard you got to work, how well you got to prepare, and how well you got to go out and compete together and execute to have success. When people associate humility or gratitude with softness, that's not at all what it is. I don't think you can be good sustainably without humility and gratitude. I think lack of humility drives arrogance. And when you get into that part, that's where bad things start happening to a person, when they start getting and believe they're entitled or owed. The great thing about competitive sports is it has to be earned. Doesn't matter what you did. You got to get out on the wood in between those four lines and earn it. And you got to do it every single time. It's not the Tour de France. You don't carry over points. No, we're not going to start, on Monday.
You don't get the yellow jersey?
You don't get the yellow jersey. They don't say, hey, you know what? You won by 41 against Maryville. You're going to start this game with a 41-point lead on Santa Clara, and we'll work from there. It's a totally different game. And so you start back from base. And so there's no carryover. You have to earn every single time. And so that's why that commitment and blinders on to your internal standards, the narratives and storylines will be fluid around it. Internally, we have to lock in those things. And that's where, if you can keep that perspective, it allows you to keep joy as a part of it, even in the hard times, because that's when it's tested. That's when your seeds our seeds of our championship team last year were laid in the first year. We went 11-20. We went to Northern Iowa with 7 players because of COVID, and we had a 17-point lead and lost in overtime. When we lost multiple games in double overtime and on buzzer beaters, the competitiveness, the toughness, the championship DNA, the seeds were planted that year. Then the next year, we really built on them, right, to get to 23 wins. And that's why when we won this championship this past year, I went out and got rings for, Cooper Neese, Cam Henry, and Calix Stevens, because those guys, they stayed. They graduated after that 20-loss season. They could have all transferred. They decided to come back. They laid the foundation for that 23-win season. Those guys, that first 2 years, those 3, they bridged it. And that's why they deserve those rings, because they laid the seeds for what last year's teams accomplished. We don't do that without those guys in that first year and then deciding, hey, you know what? We could graduate and go somewhere else. We're coming back here because we believe in this. And then they go out and win 23 games and, put ourselves in position to get the postseason, win the first postseason game there in 24 years. And that laid the groundwork for what happened in Indiana State in 23-24.
So last question. We tip it off 2:00 in Sioux Falls on Monday. What should Billiken fans, as they turn on Field of 68, wherever that is, they'll find the game on YouTube. What should Billiken fans expect and look for come Monday when we tip it off for real?
I hope they see the North Star. I hope they see a group of guys really competing and doing it together. I know that sounds like oversimplification, but I hope they see that we're really connected. We're playing incredibly hard. We're playing for each other. We're trying to play the game the right way. That we're connected together through the ups and downs of the game. A team that's going to play with the level of there's a lot of things you can't control in a basketball game. You can absolutely control your compete level. You can absolutely control your together level. Those are absolutely 100% in our control. Shots will go in or they won't. Opponents will make them or they won't. Stuff will happen, good or bad. We can control those things. I hope that they see an identity of a team that's really hard to play against, a team that's disruptive defensively and connected and playing with the effort and physicality and discipline, the scheme necessary to be good. And I hope they see an offensive team where, guys are working together to hunt great, to generate open shots, to play with a pace and togetherness that gives us a chance to generate quality shots for each other. But again, the biggest thing is a team, and I hope that's, as long as I'm here, a team that really is competing together, because to me, that's the magic. It's not just enough to compete. And it's not enough to be together. You got to do those two things together, and you got to do them for, I think Santa Clara will be a high-paced game. Normally I say about 150 possessions. This might be close to 160 on Monday, because they're going to play super fast as well. But, play to our identity, compete together for 160 possessions, and let's see what that looks like. And then let's go back to work. Let's go learn and grow from what this competition shows us. And then let's get better every single day, so we're ready for that next one on the home open on the 10th. But that's what I hope when they tune in and see. And I want to see a team that hopefully all year gets better and better and better every step along the way.
I'm sure we'll all be watching on Monday, and then we open it next Sunday at home in Chaffetz. Any message to the Billiken faithful and how important they are in Chaffetz Arena to our long-term success?
It's such a big deal. I mean, we open up on Sunday at home. I can't stress enough, the value of having a home court environment. I've seen it firsthand at both places I've been at. I've seen it without it when I first started at both places, at Lincoln Memorial and Indiana State, and I've seen it when it's sold out. And when it's sold out, and when you have people invested, and the two things that create a great home court environment, one is good players, because it doesn't matter if you know that, and two is an energy and enthusiasm in that arena. And watching it last year in the Holman Center, like our fans, there was multiple games that without them, we don't win those games. They willed us back, and there's a collaboration when you want to build something that endures, something sustainable over a long period of time. It takes everybody, and we've got to do our part. We've got to earn, our fans' respect and trust. And we got to say, hey, we've earned the ability for you to come out, spend your money, and come to the games. And I think we will. I think they'll see a group, like I said, that really is an entertaining style of basketball. I think they'll see guys that are about the right things. These guys represent all that we say we want college sports to be. We're talking about like high quality young men, guys that achieve in the classroom, guys that are about the right things. Anybody that spends time with our guys is blown away by their character and who they are as people. So I would just, ask everybody, come out. You come out once, you'll come back. If you come see us once, you'll be back. And we have a chance here in this market. It's an incredible sports town. I think we're going to put a product on the floor that's worth them coming out and being a part of. And the first step in that is Sunday, November 10th. And can't wait to see as many people out there as possible. And then we'll build it from there.
Well, I appreciate it. There's buzz on campus, as you know. There's buzz in our building here, and there's buzz in St. Louis. So we are super fired up for Monday. We invite all Billiken fans to show up next Sunday at 3 o'clock in Chaffetz Arena when we tip it off at home. But until we do it again, thank you, and get after it on Monday.
Can't wait to go compete. I'm excited to see you Monday night, or Monday afternoon.
Let's go. Billiken fans, there you have it with Josh Schertz from the stands. Until we do it again, we'll see you in Chaffetz Arena, and go Bills.
Thanks for listening to From the Stands with Billiken Athletic Director Chris May. Subscribe to our podcast in the iTunes Store and have the latest episodes sent straight to your phone. Go Billikens!